The cargo pod hit the ground hard. Metal screamed against rock. Inside, a small body rolled and crashed against the walls until everything stopped moving. Taiho opened his eyes slowly. His head hurt. His wings hurt. Everything hurt. He was 3 cycles old. In human years, that made him like a small child, maybe 4 or 5 years old. But he was not human. He was Draken, a dragonkin, born of a species that ruled 12 star systems and feared nothing in the galaxy. Except Taiho was not like other Draken. He pushed himself up on shaking legs and looked around the broken pod. Red emergency lights blinked on and off. The air was cold, so cold that his breath came out in small white clouds. Through a crack in the metal wall, he could see the sky outside. It was black and full of stars. He did not know this place. He did not know these stars. The last thing he remembered was his father's face. Cold yellow eyes looking down at him with something that was not love. It was not even hate. It was nothing. His father had looked at him like he was looking at garbage. "You are a shame to our blood," his father had said. "You have no fire. You have no strength. You are nothing." Then his father had pushed him into this pod. The door had closed. The pod had launched into space. And Taiho had screamed and cried and beaten his small claws against the metal until his strength left him. Now he was here, alone, on a moon he did not know, under stars he could not name. Taiho crawled to the crack in the wall and looked outside. The ground was gray and rocky. There were no trees, no water, no buildings. Just rocks and dust and emptiness stretching in every direction. The wind made a soft crying sound as it moved through the broken pod. He knew what this was. He had heard the older dragons talk about it in whispers. They called it the offering to the void. When a hatchling was born wrong, born weak, born without fire, the family would send them away. They would put them on a dead moon or an empty asteroid and leave them there. It was cleaner than killing them directly. The cold would do the work. The emptiness would do the work. And the family could say they gave the hatchling to the stars, which sounded almost beautiful if you did not think about it too hard. Taiho thought about it. He was young, but he was not stupid. He knew what was happening. His father had thrown him away like broken equipment. He found a thermal blanket in the corner of the pod. It was old and torn, but it still had some warmth in it. He wrapped it around his small gray body and sat in the corner where 2 walls met. The walls blocked some of the wind. His scales were gray. That was part of the problem. Draken's scales were supposed to be red, like fire, like blood, like power. His mother's scales had been the color of burning coals. His father's scales were deep crimson, almost black in certain light. But Taiho had hatched gray, like ash, like something already dead, and he had no fire. Every draken could breathe fire by the time they were 1 cycle old. It was the most basic thing, the first sign of strength. But Taiho had tried, and nothing ever came out. Just air. Just nothing. His father had waited 2 cycles, hoping the fire would come. It never did. And finally, his father had made a decision. The thermal blanket was getting colder. Taiho could feel it dying in his claws. He held it tighter, but he knew it would not last. Nothing lasted. He wondered if his mother knew. She had died when he was very young, just a few months after he hatched. He barely remembered her face. Just warmth. Just a feeling of being held. He wondered if she would have sent him away too, or if she would have kept him despite his weakness. He would never know. The stars above him were very bright. There were so many of them, more than he could count. Each one was a sun, and around each sun there might be worlds. And on those worlds, there might be families who loved their children no matter what, but not his family. Not his father. Taiho closed his eyes and tried to sleep. Sleep was better than thinking. Sleep was better than feeling the cold crawling deeper into his bones. Maybe if he slept, he would not feel it when the end came. He did not cry. Draken did not cry. His father had told him that many times. Tears were for weak species, soft species, species that had not conquered the stars with fire and war. But his body shook, and something wet appeared at the corners of his eyes. Even though he tried to stop it, he was going to die here, alone, forgotten, thrown away. The wind grew louder. The cold grew stronger. The thermal blanket finally stopped giving any warmth at all, and Taiho felt the ice settling into his chest like a stone. Then he heard something dot at first. He thought it was just the wind playing tricks. But the sound grew louder, a deep rumbling that shook the ground beneath him. He opened his eyes and looked up through the crack in the pod. A light was moving across the sky. Not a star. Something else. Something coming closer. A ship. Taiho watched it fall toward the moon, fire trailing behind it. It was not falling gracefully. It was spinning, struggling, barely under control. Something was wrong with it. The ship crashed about 100 meters away from his pod. The impact sent rocks flying into the air. Dust rose in a great cloud and then slowly settled back down. For a long moment, nothing moved. Then a door opened on the side of the ship, and light spilled out onto the gray ground. A figure stepped out. It was small compared to Draken. It walked on 2 legs and had no tail, no wings, no scales. It moved carefully, looking around at the empty landscape. Taiho knew what it was. He'd seen pictures in his lessons before his father stopped teaching him anything. It was a human. The Draken had fought 2 great wars against humans. Millions had died on both sides. There was peace now, but it was a cold peace, full of old hatred and older wounds. Taiho should have been afraid. He should have hidden. His father had told him humans were dangerous, unpredictable, strange. But Taiho was too cold to move, too tired to hide, too broken to care. He just watched the human walk across the rocks, not knowing that in a few minutes, everything in his small life was about to change. Yuna kicked the rock and watched it bounce across the gray dust. Her ship was broken. Again. The engine had failed somewhere over this dead moon, and she had barely managed to land without turning herself into a fireball. She was 34 years old. She had brown hair that she kept short because long hair got in the way. She had tired eyes and rough hands and a heart that felt like someone had scooped most of it out and thrown it away. 3 years ago, pirates had attacked her ship while her family slept. Her husband had died trying to fight them off with a kitchen knife. Her daughter, Sora, had been taken. Yuna never saw her again. The authorities told her that the pirates sold children to mining colonies far away, places where small hands were useful for small tunnels. Sora had been 6 years old. She had loved flowers, especially dandelions. She used to blow the white seeds into the air and make wishes. Yuna had named her ship the Dandelion after that. It was all she had left of her daughter. A name, a memory, a wound that never closed. Now Yuna hauled cargo between small colonies, fertilizer, machine parts, medical supplies. She talked to no one. She ate alone. She slept alone. She was not living. She was just existing, waiting for something to end the waiting. She pulled out her scanner and checked the area around her crashed ship. She needed to find parts, maybe some metal she could use to fix the engine. The scanner beeped softly, mapping the terrain. Then it beeped differently. A sharper sound. A life signature. Yuna frowned and looked at the screen. Something was alive out here, about 50 meters to her left. It was small, whatever it was. And it was cold. The scanner showed its body temperature dropping fast. She should ignore it. This was not her problem. She had enough problems of her own. Her ship was broken. She was stuck on a dead moon, and she had exactly 12 days of food and water. She did not have time to investigate strange life signs, but her feet started walking toward the signal anyway. She found the cargo pod half buried in rocks. It was Draken design. She recognized the sharp angles and the dark metal. She recognized the sharp angles and the dark metal. She had seen enough Draken ships during the wars to know their style. The pod was broken open on one side. She crouched down and looked inside. A small creature was curled in the corner, wrapped in a dead thermal blanket. It had gray scales and small wings pressed tight against its back. Its eyes were closed, but she could see it breathing, barely. A Draken child. A dragon baby. Yuna's heart stopped for a moment. Then it started again, faster than before. She knew what the Draken were. Everyone knew. They had burned human colonies during the wars. They had killed millions. They were proud and cruel and ancient, and they looked down on humans like humans look down on insects. This child was one of them. Or it would grow up to be one of them. Every smart part of her brain told her to walk away. This was not her child. This was not her species. This was an enemy, or would be. Let the cold take it. Let the stars have it. It was not her problem. The child's eyes opened. They were yellow, like all Draken eyes, but there was something different in them. Something soft. Something scared. The child looked at her, and its small mouth opened, and it made a sound that was half growl and half whimper. It was trying to scare her away. It was trying to be fierce. But it was too weak, too cold, too small. The growl turned into a cough, and the cough turned into shaking, and the child pressed itself harder into the corner like it was trying to disappear. Yuna saw fear. Real fear. The kind of fear she had seen in her daughter's eyes when the pirates came. She took off her jacket. She did not think about it. She did not plan it. Her hands just moved, pulling the jacket off her shoulders and holding it out toward the small creature. The child flinched. It expected her to hurt it. She could see that in the way it raised its claws, the way its body tensed. "Hey," she said softly. "Hey, it's okay. I'm not going to hurt you." The child did not understand her words. Draken spoke a different language. But something in her voice must have reached it, because the tension in its small body slowly faded. She moved closer, very slowly, like she was approaching a wounded animal. The child watched her with those yellow eyes, never blinking, never looking away. When she was close enough, she wrapped a jacket around its small shoulders. The child flinched at her touch, but did not pull away. It was too cold to fight. Too tired to run. Yuna looked at the cargo pod, at the broken metal and the dead blanket and the emptiness all around. She understood what had happened. She had heard stories about what Draken did with children they considered weak or wrong. They threw them away. They gave them to the void. This child had been thrown away. Just like garbage. Just like nothing. Something cracked inside Yuna's chest. Something that had been frozen for 3 years. "I know," she whispered, more to herself than to the child. "I know you're not supposed to be mine." She reached down and picked up the small creature. It was lighter than she expected, all bones and scales and trembling muscles. It made a small sound against her chest, not a growl this time, just a breath. "I know," she said again. She carried the child back to her ship. The dandelion's door was still open, spilling warm light onto the cold gray ground. She stepped inside and felt the heat wrap around her like a blanket. The child in her arms stopped shaking. Its eyes closed. Its breathing slowed. Yuna sat down in the pilot's chair and held the child against her chest. She could feel its heartbeat, fast and scared, but still there. Still fighting. She did not know why she had done this. She did not know what would happen next. She did not know if she was making a terrible mistake. But for the first time in 3 years, she felt something other than emptiness. She felt purpose. She felt need. She felt like someone in the universe needed her to be exactly where she was, doing exactly what she was doing. The child's claws gripped her shirt weakly, holding on like she was the only solid thing in a universe of darkness. "I've got you," she said softly. "I've got you, little one." Outside, the stars burned cold and distant. But inside the dandelion, something warm had started to grow. The first week was the hardest. Tae-ho did not trust the human. He did not trust the food she gave him. He did not trust the warm blankets or the soft bed or the gentle words she spoke in a language he did not understand. In Draken culture, nothing was free. Everything had a price. If someone gave you food, they wanted something back. If someone gave you shelter, they owned you. Kindness was just another form of control. So Tae-ho waited for the trap. He ate the soup she made, but he ate it fast, ready to fight if she tried to take it away. He slept in the corner of the small room she gave him, but he slept lightly, waking at every sound. He watched her constantly, trying to understand what she wanted from him. The days passed, and she asked for nothing. She fixed her ship slowly, working on the engine for hours each day. Sometimes she talked while she worked, even though Tae-ho could not understand her words. Her voice was soft and sad, like music played on a broken instrument. Tae-ho started learning her language. He was young, and young minds learn fast. Words began to make sense. Simple things first. Food, water, sleep, yes, no, good, bad. Then harder things. Name, home, safe. He learned that her name was Yuna. He learned that her ship was called the Dandelion, though he did not know what a dandelion was. He learned that she lived alone, and that sometimes, late at night, she cried. The first time he heard her cry, he did not know what to do. He crept to the door of her sleeping room and looked through the crack. She was sitting on her bed, holding something small in her hands. A picture. She was talking to it, whispering words he could not hear clearly. He caught one word, Sora. Later, he asked her about it. His words were clumsy and broken, but she understood. Sora was my daughter, Yuna said. Her eyes were wet, but she smiled anyway. She was taken from me a long time ago. Tae-ho did not know what to say. He had never comforted anyone before. No one had ever comforted him. Sad? He asked, because it was the only word he could find. Yes, Yuna said. Very sad. But it's okay to be sad sometimes. It means you love someone. Tae-ho thought about this for a long time. The Draken did not talk about love. They talked about strength and honor and fire. Love was weakness. Love was something that held you back. But watching Yuna cry for her daughter, he did not see weakness. He saw something else. Something strong in a different way. Something that could survive loss and keep going. Weeks passed. The ship was fixed. They left the dead moon behind and flew to a small colony station to buy supplies. Tae-ho stayed inside the ship while Yuna went out. He watched through the window at all the different species walking past. Humans, Draken, and others he did not recognize. When Yuna came back, she brought him a gift. It was a small toy, a stuffed animal that looked like some kind of earth creature with long ears. It's a rabbit, she said. I thought you might like it. Tae-ho held the toy in his claws and stared at it. No one had ever given him a gift before. His father had given him lessons and training and criticism, but never gifts. Never anything soft or kind or pointless. Why? He asked. Yuna smiled and sat down next to him. Because I wanted to. Because I thought it might make you happy. No reason? No reason. Just because. Tae-ho looked at the rabbit for a long time. Then he held it against his chest, and felt something warm spread through him. It was a strange feeling. He did not have a word for it yet. That night, he had a nightmare. He was back in the cargo pod, and his father's face was above him, cold and empty. The door was closing. The stars were getting smaller. He was alone, alone, alone forever. He woke up screaming. Yuna was there in seconds. She burst into his room and gathered him in her arms without asking questions. He fought at first, his claws scratching at her skin, his wings beating against her chest. But she did not let go. "I've got you," she said, over and over. "I've got you, little one. You're safe. You're safe." Slowly the fear faded. Slowly his body stopped shaking. He pressed his face against her shoulder and breathed in her scent. Oil and metal and something soft underneath. Something that smelled like home should smell. "He threw me away," Taiho whispered. "My father. He threw me away." Yuna held him tighter. "I know," she said. "I know he did. But I found you. And I'm not going to throw you away. Not ever. Why?" It was the same question he always asked. Why did she save him? Why did she keep him? Why did she care about a broken dragon child with no fire and no worth? Yuna pulled back and looked at him. Her eyes were wet again, but she was smiling. "Because everyone deserves someone who won't give up on them," she said. "Everyone deserves to be loved. Even if the people who should have loved them first forgot how." Taiho did not fully understand, but he felt the truth of it somewhere deep in his chest. A few days later, he said his first real sentence in her language. He had been practicing in secret, wanting to get it right. "Yama," he said. It was the word for mother. "Good morning, Yama." Yuna dropped a cup she was holding. It shattered on the floor, but she did not seem to notice. She stared at him with wide eyes, and then she started crying and laughing at the same time. "Good morning, Taiho," she said, kneeling down to hold him. "Good morning, my son." Outside the ship, stars burned in the endless black. But inside, there was warmth and light and something that felt like family. Taiho still had no fire. His scales were still gray. By Draken standards, he was still worthless. But for the first time in his life, he did not feel worthless at all. 6 months changed everything. Taiho grew taller and stronger. His wings became wider, though he still could not fly very well. His gray scales became shinier, almost silver in certain light. He learned to read and write in the human language. He learned to cook simple meals and fix small things on the ship. He learned to laugh. The laugh was the most important thing. Yuna said she had never heard a draken laugh before. Taiho told her the draken did not laugh much. There was not much to laugh about in the Empire. They traveled from station to station, colony to colony. Yuna still hauled cargo, but now she had help. Taiho would carry boxes and check inventory and talk to customers. Most people stared at first. A human woman with a draken child was not something you saw every day. But Taiho learned to smile at them, and eventually they stopped staring. He called her Iyama now, always. She called him her son. It felt right. It felt real. But the universe does not let you keep peace forever. They were docked at a trading station, called Haven's Rest, when the warship arrived. It was a draken vessel, massive and dark, covered in the sharp angles and red markings of the Eastern Nebula Fleet. Taiho saw it through the station window and felt his blood turn to ice. "Ama," he whispered. "Yama, we need to go." But it was already too late. Soldiers came into the station. Draken warriors in ceremonial armor, their scales red and black, their eyes cold. They moved through the crowds like sharks through water, pushing aside anyone who got in their way. Their leader was a female draken named Gia. She was tall and scarred, with one eye that did not work properly. She walked with the confidence of someone who had killed many enemies and expected to kill many more. "We're looking for a hatchling," she announced. Her voice echoed through the station. "A gray-scaled male, 3 cycles old at time of release. He is property of the Eastern Nebula Fleet. Anyone who has information will be rewarded. Anyone who hides him will be punished." Property. The word hit Taiho like a fist. He was not a person to them. He was a thing. A broken thing they had thrown away, and now they wanted back. Yuna grabbed his hand and pulled him toward their ship. They almost made it. They were 10 steps from the Dandelion's door when a soldier stepped in front of them. "Human," the soldier said, looking down at Yuna. "What is that creature you are holding?" Yuna's hand tightened on Taiho's. "My son," she said. The soldier laughed. It was not a kind laugh. "Your son has scales and claws. Interesting biology." Commander Gia walked over. Her one good eye moved from Yuna to Taiho and back again. She tilted her head like a predator studying prey. "So this is where you have been hiding," she said to Taiho. "Your father was surprised to hear you survived. He thought the cold would take you in hours." Taiho wanted to run. He wanted to hide. But Yuna was still holding his hand, and her grip was steady and strong. "He's not going back," Yuna said. "He belongs with me." Gia looked at her with something between amusement and disgust. "You do not understand our ways, human. A hatchling is the property of their bloodline. He was given to the void, yes, but he did not die. That means he is still part of the Eastern Nebula. Still an heir, however flawed. He's not property. He's a child. To you, perhaps. To us, he is a resource. A shame that must be managed." Gia waved her hand at the soldiers. "Take the hatchling. Kill the human if she resists." The soldiers moved forward. Taiho felt terror rise in his chest. Not for himself, but for Yuna. They would kill her. They would kill his mother, the only person who had ever loved him. "No," he shouted. "Please, no. I will go with you. Just don't hurt her." Gia paused. She looked at Taiho with her cold, scarred face. "You would surrender yourself for a human? A creature not of your blood, not of your species?" "She is my mother," Taiho said. "She is more my mother than anyone in the Empire ever was." "Interesting," Gia said. "Pathetic, but interesting." Yuna stepped in front of Taiho. She was small compared to the Draken soldiers. She had no weapons, no armor, no army. She was just one human woman standing against an empire, but she stood anyway. "You will not take my son," she said. Her voice did not shake. Her eyes did not look away. "You will have to kill me first." Gia stared at her for a long moment. Then she laughed again, a harsh sound like breaking glass. "You would die for him?" "Truly, yes. Why?" Yuna's answer was simple and quiet and stronger than any weapon, because someone should have. The station went silent. Everyone was watching now. Humans, Draken, other species. They were all holding their breath, waiting to see what would happen. Ja's soldiers looked at their commander, waiting for orders. Their hands were on their weapons. One word from Gia, and this would become a massacre. But something strange happened. Gia did not give the word. She stood there, looking at this small human woman, and for just a moment, something flickered in her one good eye. It might have been confusion. It might have been doubt. It might have been something older and deeper, something the Draken had buried so long ago they had forgotten its name. "Stand down," Gia said finally. "This is no longer a simple retrieval. We will wait for diplomatic channels." The soldiers hesitated, then stepped back. Taiho could not believe it. Neither could Yuna, but they did not move. They stood together, mother and son, waiting for the storm to pass. It was not over. They both knew that the Empire would not give up so easily. But for now, they were still together. For now, they were still alive. And sometimes that was enough. The next 3 days were chaos. Human authorities arrived first. They did not like seeing a Draken warship threatening one of their citizens. Then Galactic Council mediators came, serious-looking officials from neutral species, who tried to calm everyone down. The trading station became a battlefield of words. Lawyers argued with diplomats. Diplomats argued with military commanders. Everyone had an opinion about who owned a small gray dragon child. Taiho and Yuna stayed on a dandelion. Soldiers from both sides guarded the ship, making sure no one tried to run away. It felt like being in a cage. "I'm sorry," Taiho said on the second night. They were sitting together in the small kitchen, drinking tea. "This is all my fault. If you had not taken me—" "Stop," Yuna said gently. "I made my choice. I would make it again. But they might hurt you." "They might? Then let them try." Yuna smiled and touched his face. "You are my son, Taiho. Not because of blood. Not because of scales or species. Because I chose you, and you chose me. That is family. That is real." Taiho felt something warm in his chest. It was not fire, not yet. But it was close. On the third day, everything fell apart. Commander Jia had received new orders from the Empire. Taiho's father had decided that the shame had gone on long enough. If the hatchling could not be retrieved quietly, then there would be no retrieval at all. There would be no evidence. There would be no human woman telling stories about Draken cruelty. There would only be silence. Jia walked to the dandelion with a squad of her best soldiers. The human guards tried to stop her, but she pushed past them easily. "The negotiation is over," she announced. "The Eastern Nebula Fleet has made its final decision." Yuna came out of the ship to face her. She knew what was happening. She could see it in the cold certainty of Jia's eyes. "You cannot do this," Yuna said. The council will do nothing," Jia said. "They never do. They talk and argue and write reports, while the strong take what they want." She pulled out her weapon, a long blade that glowed with red energy. "I am sorry, human. You showed something I did not expect. But orders are orders." Taiho watched from the ship's window. His heart was pounding. His whole body was shaking. His mother was going to die. She was going to die because of him, because she had dared to love something the Empire had thrown away. Something burned inside him. Not in his chest this time, but deeper. In his bones. In his blood. In the oldest parts of himself that he did not know existed. No, not her. Never her. Jia raised her blade. Yuna did not run. She stood there, small and human and impossibly brave, ready to die for a child who was not even her species. Taiho burst out of the ship. He opened his mouth, and for the first time in his life, fire came out. But it was not red fire. It was not orange or yellow, or any color that Draken fire had ever been. It was white. Pure blinding white, like a star being born, like the heart of the universe itself. It shot from his small mouth in a stream of impossible heat and light, passing between Jia and Yuna, burning a line in the metal floor of the station. Everyone froze. Jia stared at Taiho with her one good eye wide open. Her blade hung in the air, forgotten. "Impossible," she whispered. "The white fire. It has not been seen for 10,000 years." Taiho stood between his mother and the soldiers. Smoke curled from his jaws. His gray scales were glowing now, lit from within by that ancient, impossible light. "My Ama," he growled. His voice was small but clear. "Mine. You will not touch her." The soldiers behind Jia fell to their knees. Not because anyone ordered them to. They fell because they knew what they were seeing. Every Draken child heard the stories. The white fire was the flame of the first ones, the ancestors who had shaped worlds and built empires before history began. It was power beyond power. It was the fire that had been lost when the Draken forgot something important. They had forgotten how to love. Gia lowered her blade slowly. She looked at Taiho, then at Yuna, then back at Taiho. How? She asked. How does a fireless runt produce the white fire? Yuna walked forward and put her hand on Taiho's shoulder. She was crying, but she was smiling too. Because fire does not come from hate, she said. It does not come from conquest or cruelty. It comes from the heart, from love, from wanting to protect someone more than you want to protect yourself. That is not our way, Gia said. Maybe it should be. The standoff ended. The warship left. The Empire sent diplomats with new words and new offers, but they all meant the same thing. They were afraid now. Afraid of what the white fire meant. Afraid of what Taiho might become. In the end, Taiho was granted asylum under Yuna's care. It was the first time in galactic history that a Draken had been legally adopted by a human. There were many arguments about it. There would be many more, but none of that mattered to Taiho. What mattered was that he was going home. To the dandelion. To his mother. That night, when everything was quiet, they sat together in the cockpit and watched the stars. Alma, Taiho said, why did you stop that night? On the moon? Yuna looked at him. Her eyes were soft in the starlight. Because you were someone's child, she said. Even if they forgot. Even if they threw you away. Someone needed to remember that you mattered. And you remembered? I remembered how to be someone's mother. She kissed the top of his head, right between his small gray horns. You saved me too, you know. I was so empty before I found you. I was just waiting to disappear. We saved each other, Taiho said. Yes, Yuna smiled. We saved each other. Outside, the universe stretched on forever, full of darkness and distance and cold, indifferent stars. But inside the little ship called the Dandelion, there was warmth and love and a family that the universe had never planned for. Taiho closed his eyes and leaned against his mother's shoulder. The white fire inside him was quiet now, sleeping, waiting for the next time it was needed. He had been born worthless. He had been thrown away like garbage. He had expected nothing from the universe, but a human had given him everything. And that, more than any fire, was the most powerful thing in all the stars.